It was a quiet afternoon when a man walked into the Grand Hotel. The building stood tall in the heart of the city, a place that many would call a symbol of luxury. Its tall glass doors, polished floors, and elegant decorations caught the eyes of passers-by. Inside, guests were enjoying their afternoon coffee, and the staff moved smoothly between the busy lobby and reception area. The man entered the hotel with a sense of excitement. He wasn't a guest, though. He was here for a job. He had been hired as the new receptionist, ready to start a fresh chapter in his life. He had big dreams and hoped this job would bring him new opportunities. He was wearing a neat uniform, prepared for his first day, ready to meet his new colleagues. As he walked toward the front desk, the hotel staff didn't notice him at first. They were busy with their own tasks, chatting with guests, answering phones, and managing the flow of people coming in and out of the hotel. But when he stepped up to the counter, things started to change. A staff member who had been standing by the desk looked up and immediately gave him a stern look. She was surprised to see someone standing there in the hotel's lobby who didn't seem to belong. She hadn't seen him before and quickly assumed he was just another person trying to sneak into the hotel without a reservation. She didn't know he had been hired to be the receptionist, and she wasn't about to take any chances. "Excuse me, sir, but you need to leave," she said, her voice sharp, a little cold. "We don't allow unauthorized people in the hotel." Her words were harsh, and she didn't give him a chance to explain himself. The man was taken aback. He hadn't expected to be treated like this. He tried to speak, to let her know that he was, in fact, the new receptionist, but she didn't listen. Instead, she called for security. The man stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. He looked around, hoping that someone would step in and explain the misunderstanding. But all he saw were guests watching the scene quietly, most of them unaware of what was happening. The hotel staff were focused on escorting him out, and no one seemed willing to help. It felt like the world was turning against him for no reason other than his appearance. As security approached, the man was gently but firmly escorted out of the hotel. The staff watched him go, still oblivious to who he truly was. The guests, too, continued with their day, none of them aware of the situation unfolding just a few feet away. The man left the hotel, his head hanging low, a mix of embarrassment and frustration washing over him. What the staff didn't know, and what the guests never would, was that this man wasn't just any visitor. He was the person who had been hired to welcome guests, to be their first point of contact. He was the new receptionist, the one they had been waiting for. But they had all judged him before he even had the chance to prove himself. As the doors closed behind him, the man stood outside for a moment, feeling a rush of emotions. He had been rejected without a chance to speak. And in that moment, he realized just how quickly people could make assumptions, how easily they could treat others as outsiders. But he wasn't going to let this incident define him. He had a job to do, and he would find a way to make it work. The man stood outside the hotel, feeling a wave of confusion and disbelief. His mind raced as he tried to process what had just happened. He had been excited about his first day, about the opportunity to work at such a prestigious hotel. It had taken him months to even get the interview. And now, after finally being hired, he was kicked out. Not even a chance to show his face as the new receptionist. He was just judged by how he looked. Back in the hotel, the manager was reviewing the hiring documents and preparing for the new receptionist's arrival. She was a kind woman, known for her patience and understanding. She had carefully selected him after a series of interviews, and everything had seemed perfect. The man had a strong background in customer service, a friendly smile, and a professionalism that made him the ideal candidate. She had been eager to bring him on board. The manager, however, was not present at the front desk when the incident took place. She had been in a meeting, and by the time she arrived in the lobby, everything was already in chaos. The receptionist who had escorted the man out was explaining the situation, assuming it was all a misunderstanding caused by a stranger trying to sneak in. The manager listened carefully but could feel a tinge of concern growing inside her. There was something off about the way things had gone. "Are you sure he wasn't one of our new hires?" the manager asked, her voice calm but with a hint of suspicion. The receptionist nodded confidently. "I'm positive. He didn't seem like one of us." The manager's eyes widened in shock as she reviewed the records. "That's him," she muttered under her breath. "That's the new receptionist. He was supposed to start today." Realization hit her hard. The person they had just thrown out of the hotel was the very same person who was supposed to help guests check in, answer their questions, and keep the hotel running smoothly. Not only had they made a huge mistake, but they had done it without even asking for his side of the story. She immediately left her office and rushed to the lobby. As the manager stepped into the lobby, she could feel the tension in the air. The staff members were still gossiping quietly among themselves, unaware of how serious the mistake was. The manager's heart sank as she realized the damage had already been done. The man was out there, embarrassed and probably upset, but she couldn't change what had happened. All she could do now was apologize and make things right. The hotel staff were talking amongst themselves, but no one seemed to understand the full gravity of the situation. "Maybe he'll be upset for a bit," one staff member said, "but he'll get over it. People make mistakes." But it wasn't just a mistake. The manager could see how much it meant to him, and how much it hurt. This wasn't a simple error. This was about trust, respect, and fairness. They had judged him before even giving him a chance, and it wasn't just about him. It was about the reputation of the hotel and its ability to welcome anyone, no matter where they came from. She walked out of the hotel, determined to find him and fix the situation. She knew this wouldn't be easy, but she wasn't going to let her mistake cost him his job, nor would she allow the hotel to be known for treating people that way. She had to make things right, and she knew it had to start with an apology. But deep down, she feared it wouldn't be enough to erase the pain he must have felt. I hope this expanded version captures the essence of the story while keeping it interesting and engaging. Let me know if you'd like to make any adjustments. After a few minutes, the manager arrived at the hotel's entrance. Her heart raced as she stepped outside, looking for the man. She knew she had to find him quickly and apologize for what had happened. She felt a wave of guilt, realizing how unfairly the man had been treated. He had been dismissed without any opportunity to prove himself. He had been rejected because of assumptions, and now she had to make things right. She walked briskly down the street, scanning the area for any sign of him. It wasn't long before she spotted him sitting on a nearby bench. His head was down, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the situation had taken its toll. The man looked up when he heard footsteps approach, but his expression remained neutral. The manager took a deep breath before walking over to him. "Excuse me," she said gently. "I'm so sorry about what happened back there. I had no idea you were the new receptionist." Her voice trembled slightly, but she did her best to remain calm. The man looked at her for a moment, studying her face. He had already heard the apology in her voice, but that didn't erase the sting of the previous events. He wasn't sure if he could just let go of the embarrassment and the feeling of being wronged. "I didn't expect this," he said quietly, his tone calm but distant. "I came in here to start my new job, but instead, I was treated like I wasn't even supposed to be here. It's hard to forget that feeling." The manager nodded, feeling even more guilty. She understood now that the mistake wasn't just an inconvenience. It was personal, and it affected the man in ways she hadn't fully realized. "I understand how you feel, and I am truly sorry. We made an awful mistake. I'll take full responsibility for what happened." The man stared at her for a long moment, weighing his options. On the one hand, he appreciated that she was trying to make things right. But on the other hand, the damage had already been done. He had walked into the hotel with hope, only to be shown the door without any reason. The experience felt like a harsh reminder of how quickly people could judge him based on his appearance alone. "I don't know if just an apology will fix this," he replied softly. "But I do appreciate you coming to find me. It shows that you care." The manager felt a weight lifted off her shoulders, but she knew that words alone wouldn't be enough. She had to make sure that this kind of thing never happened again, not just for him, but for anyone else who might face unfair treatment. I'll make sure the staff knows what happened, and I'll take action to prevent it from happening again. I'd also like to invite you back inside, if you're willing. You're more than welcome to start your first day, and we'll make sure you're comfortable. I'll personally make sure that everyone treats you with respect from now on." The man hesitated, but after a moment he nodded. He appreciated her sincerity, and despite everything that had happened, he didn't want to give up on his new job. He wanted to prove to himself that he could make this work. "All right," he said, standing up from the bench. "I'll come back. But I want to make sure this doesn't happen again. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did." The manager smiled, relieved. "I promise it won't." This expanded version adds depth to the conversation and builds on the emotional weight of the situation. It also helps show the manager's commitment to fixing the mistake while highlighting the man's resolve to move forward. "Let me know if you'd like to adjust anything." The man walked back into the hotel with the manager by his side. As they entered, the atmosphere felt different. The staff, who had been chatting among themselves before, grew silent as they noticed the manager and the man walking in together. Their eyes followed the pair, clearly curious about what had happened. The manager could sense the tension in the air. She knew the staff was waiting for an explanation, but before she could address them, she turned to the man and spoke softly. "I want to make sure you're comfortable here. You've already been through so much, and I don't want to add to it. You can take a few minutes to settle in, and then I'll gather everyone for a meeting." The man nodded, feeling a bit better. He was glad the manager was being so considerate. Even though the situation had been uncomfortable, he appreciated her willingness to make things right. He walked over to the receptionist's desk, which was now empty, and sat down, taking a deep breath. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, though. He knew the staff was probably talking about him, and he wasn't sure how to handle the pressure. As he sat at the desk, the manager went to gather the team. The hotel was bustling with activity, but for some reason, today felt quieter. People seemed more cautious, more aware of each other. The staff gathered in the break room, where the manager had called them for a meeting. As the staff stood there, the manager wasted no time getting straight to the point. "I need to address what happened earlier," she began. "We made a huge mistake today. One of our own employees, who was hired as the new receptionist, was treated unfairly. He was judged, thrown out of the hotel, and made to feel like he didn't belong. That's not who we are, and it's not how we operate." The staff exchanged uneasy glances. Some of them looked embarrassed, while others seemed to be shifting uncomfortably in their seats. No one spoke, but the manager could tell they were beginning to understand the gravity of the situation. "I want you all to understand that this is not just about one mistake. This is about how we treat every person who walks through our doors, no matter who they are or where they come from," the manager continued. "We're supposed to be a welcoming place, a place where anyone can feel at home. And today, we failed at that." There was a long silence in the room as the staff absorbed the manager's words. Some of them looked down, clearly feeling guilty, while others seemed deep in thought. The manager knew that this wasn't going to be an easy change. It would take time, but it was necessary. Meanwhile, the man sat at the desk, feeling a mix of emotions. He was grateful that the manager was addressing the situation, but at the same time, he felt uneasy. He couldn't help but wonder what the staff really thought of him now. He didn't want to feel like an outsider or someone to be talked about. He wanted to be accepted for who he was and what he could bring to the hotel. After a few minutes, the manager returned to his side. "I've spoken to the team, and we'll be taking steps to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. I'll be checking in regularly, and we're going to work on some training to ensure that every guest and every employee feels respected." She smiled gently. "Now how about we start your first day properly? The man smiled back, feeling a bit lighter. "I'm ready," he said. This version builds up the tension and emotional weight of the situation, while also focusing on the manager's effort to make things right. It also highlights the man's internal struggle with the awkwardness of being judged, but wanting to make a fresh start. Let me know if you need any further adjustments. The next morning, everything felt a bit different. The hotel was busier than ever as guests arrived and checked out, the usual sounds of conversation and laughter filling the air. But for the man, today was a fresh start. As he sat behind the reception desk, he could feel the weight of the previous day lifting off his shoulders. The uncomfortable memories of being rejected were still there, but now there was a chance to move forward. The manager had kept her word. She had worked hard overnight to ensure the staff understood the importance of welcoming everyone, no matter who they were. She had organized a quick meeting early in the morning before the hotel opened for the day. The staff had listened carefully as she spoke about the importance of respect, kindness, and inclusion. "We are a team," she had said. "Each person plays an important role, and we must make sure everyone feels like they belong. No one should ever feel like they don't matter here, especially not someone we've hired to be a part of our team." After the meeting, the manager personally ensured that the man was settled at his desk, ready to start his first official day. She had given him a warm smile and a reassuring nod before walking off to handle other matters. The man felt a little better, but he knew it would take time to rebuild his confidence. At first, it was a bit awkward. Guests came up to the desk, and he smiled at them, but it felt different. He couldn't help but wonder if they had heard about the incident. But as the day went on, something unexpected happened. Guests were polite and friendly, and the staff started to interact with him in a more respectful and welcoming way. A few of his colleagues, the ones who had been present the day before, made an effort to speak to him. One of them, a young woman who had been particularly outspoken about the misunderstanding, approached him with an apologetic smile. "I'm really sorry about what happened yesterday," she said sincerely. "It was a big mistake, and I want to make sure you know it won't happen again." The man smiled back, appreciating her honesty. "Thank you," he said. "I know it was just a misunderstanding. I just want to focus on doing my job now." As the day went on, the man began to relax. He answered phone calls, checked in guests, and even handled a few special requests with confidence. He felt more at ease as time passed, though there were still moments when he questioned whether the staff truly accepted him. But the guests never treated him differently, and that meant a lot. By the afternoon, the hotel's atmosphere had started to feel more comfortable. The staff was more friendly and engaging, and he could see that the manager had made sure everyone was on the same page. The guests seemed to appreciate the welcoming vibe, and he could tell that they were being treated with respect. Still, the man knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. He had been given a second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. He worked harder, pushing through the awkwardness and focusing on providing excellent service. He smiled at the guests, made small talk with the staff, and slowly but surely, he started to feel like he truly belonged. By the end of the day, the man was tired but proud. He had made it through his first day without letting the previous events hold him back. He had shown himself that he could rise above the mistakes of others and prove his worth. And although he wasn't sure what the future held, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning, and he was ready to face whatever came next. This expanded part shows the man's progress throughout his first day, focusing on how he regains his confidence and starts to make meaningful connections with both guests and staff. It also emphasizes the importance of the manager's actions in setting things right. Let me know if you'd like to adjust anything. The next few days passed by in a blur. The hotel had settled into its usual rhythm, with the man fitting in more each day. He started to feel like he belonged behind the desk. The awkwardness he had felt in the beginning was slowly melting away. It was no longer about the mistake from his first day. It was about his work, the guests, and proving that he was just as capable as anyone else. The staff had followed through with their promises. They treated him with respect, and the manager made sure there was constant communication. If anyone had doubts or questions, they came to him directly. There were no longer whispers or glances. Everyone was focused on making the hotel a better place for everyone who worked there and everyone who walked through the doors. As the man became more comfortable, he started to connect with the guests more. He helped people with their bags, provided directions, and even gave recommendations for places to visit in the city. Slowly, he became a familiar face to regular guests, who began to recognize him as the welcoming receptionist. He could see the difference in how people treated him now, genuinely friendly and appreciative. One afternoon, a family came in for a late check-in. The man noticed them as they approached the desk. The parents looked tired, and their young daughter was holding a stuffed bear in her arms. It was clear they had been traveling for a while and were eager to get to their room. As the man checked them in, he made small talk with the daughter, asking if she had any fun plans for her stay. "She's been looking forward to the pool," the mother said with a smile. "We're here for a little vacation before school starts. It's been a long road trip, but we're finally here." The man smiled at them, making sure everything went smoothly with the check-in process. As they headed to their room, the little girl waved at him, her face lighting up. The moment felt special. It wasn't just a routine task anymore. It was a chance to make someone's day better. It reminded him of why he had taken the job in the first place, to connect with people and make their experience positive. Later that afternoon, the manager stopped by to check on him. She had been keeping an eye on everything, and it was clear she was pleased with how he had been handling things. She had noticed the improvement in the atmosphere of the hotel as well. The staff seemed to be working more cohesively, and the guests were happy with the service. "You're doing a great job," she said with a warm smile. "I've seen such a positive change. Keep it up." The man felt a wave of pride. It was only his second week, but it already felt like he was part of the team. The manager's words meant a lot, and he knew that the hard work was paying off. That evening, as the hotel settled down and guests headed to their rooms for the night, the man sat at the desk and reflected on how far he had come. The days had felt long and challenging at times, but each one had brought him closer to where he wanted to be. The memory of being rejected on his first day still lingered in his mind, but it no longer had the power to define him. He had worked hard to prove himself, and he was starting to see the results. There was still more to learn, and the road ahead wasn't without its obstacles. But for the first time in a long while, the man felt confident. He wasn't just filling a position. He was becoming a valued member of the team, and that meant everything to him. This expanded version focuses on the man's growth and the positive changes happening at the hotel, as well as his personal reflections on his progress. Let me know if you'd like any further changes. As the weeks passed, the man continued to settle into his role at the hotel. The awkwardness from his first day had almost entirely disappeared. He had found his rhythm, and more importantly, he had earned the respect of his colleagues and guests. The hotel, which had once felt like a place full of uncertainty for him, now felt like a second home. One afternoon, as the man was handling a check-in for a regular guest, he noticed something different in the lobby. A couple walked in, looking a bit lost, scanning the area for assistance. The man quickly walked over to them, his friendly smile in place. He could tell they were new to the city, and he was eager to help them make the most of their stay. "Welcome to the hotel," he said warmly. "Can I help you with your check-in?" The woman smiled back at him, a little hesitant at first. "Yes, we're checking in. It's our first time here, and we're hoping to get some recommendations for things to do around the area." The man's face lit up. This was exactly the kind of moment he had been waiting for, the chance to make a guest feel at home, to show them the warmth and friendliness he had learned to offer. He quickly checked them in, made sure everything was in order, and then began to give them a few suggestions. "There's a lovely park just a few blocks away," he said. "It's perfect for a morning walk, And there's a great cafe nearby where you can have breakfast. Also, if you're into museums, the city's art museum has a great collection. The guests seemed grateful for the tips, and as they left for their room, the woman turned back to thank him. "You've made us feel really welcome," she said. "We can tell you really know the area. We'll be sure to check out those places." The man watched them go, feeling a sense of pride. Moments like these made everything worthwhile. He had started out as someone who felt like an outsider, unsure if he would ever be accepted. But now, he was the one who could make people feel welcome, who could help them feel at home in a new place. Later that day, the manager stopped by to check on him, as she always did. She was always so supportive, offering encouragement and listening to his thoughts. She knew how hard he had worked to earn the trust of the staff and the guests. "I've been hearing nothing but good things from the guests," she said with a smile. "You're doing amazing, and it's clear that you're really settling in. How are you feeling about everything?" The man couldn't help but smile back. "I feel great. Honestly, it's been a little challenging, but in a good way. Every day is a chance to get better, and I'm learning a lot. I'm really starting to feel like I belong here." The manager nodded, clearly pleased. "You've earned it. It's not easy to build that kind of reputation, but you've done it with hard work and kindness." As the days went on, the man continued to prove himself. He no longer felt like the person who had been kicked out of the hotel on his first day. Now he was a crucial part of the team, and the guests recognized him as someone who cared about their experience. The hotel's atmosphere had completely changed. It was a place where people felt comfortable, where they could relax and enjoy their stay. The man had learned that sometimes making a fresh start wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about building something better from it. He had started as someone who was rejected, but now he was someone who welcomed others with open arms. And that, more than anything, was the reward he had been working toward all along. This expanded version highlights the man's growing confidence and the positive impact he has on the hotel's atmosphere and the guests' experience. Let me know if you'd like any further revisions. As the months went by, the man became an integral part of the hotel. He no longer had to prove himself every day. His actions spoke louder than words. The awkwardness of his first few days faded into the background, replaced by the sense of pride and confidence he had worked so hard to build. Guests who came through the hotel doors began to recognize him, greeting him with smiles and friendly words. It wasn't just because he was good at his job. It was because they could feel his genuine kindness and eagerness to help. One evening, as the sun set over the city and the hotel began to quiet down for the night, the man sat at his desk, reflecting on how far he had come. He remembered the day he had been turned away from the hotel, feeling humiliated and unsure of what the future held. At that moment, it had felt like the end of his journey. But now, sitting at the same desk, he realized that the experience had only made him stronger. He had spent the last several months working tirelessly to prove that he belonged, not just to his colleagues, but to himself. And through it all, he had learned a powerful lesson: resilience. Despite the challenges, despite the judgment he had faced, he had risen above it. His hard work and determination had paid off, not only in earning the respect of those around him, but also in building his own self-worth. The manager, who had been by his side from the beginning, had watched his transformation with pride. She had seen the man who had walked in unsure and nervous, and now she saw someone who was confident and respected. She had always believed in him, but even she couldn't help but be amazed at how much he had grown. One evening, as the hotel staff gathered for a meeting to discuss upcoming events and improvements, the manager took a moment to recognize the man for his dedication. She stood up in front of the group, her voice clear and proud. "I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone who has truly set an example for all of us," she said, her eyes shining with appreciation. "When he first started, we made a mistake, but he didn't let that stop him. Instead, he worked harder, learned faster, and built trust with everyone around him. He is now a valued member of our team, and I couldn't be prouder to have him here with us." The man, surprised by the recognition, felt a rush of gratitude. He hadn't expected such a public acknowledgement, but he knew that it was the result of everything he had put into his work. It wasn't about the mistakes anymore. It was about how he had handled them, how he had pushed forward with grace. As the meeting continued, he smiled to himself. He had come so far from the days when he felt like an outsider. The sense of belonging he had worked so hard to achieve was now his reality. And in that moment, he knew that no matter what challenges came his way in the future, he was ready to face them with confidence and resilience. The hotel, once a place of uncertainty, had become a place of opportunity for him. He had transformed not only the way others saw him, but also the way he saw himself. He had learned that setbacks were not the end. They were merely opportunities to learn, grow, and become stronger. And so, as the man continued to help guests, solve problems, and contribute to the success of the hotel, he carried with him the knowledge that he had earned his place and that he was exactly where he was meant to be. This version shows the man's full transformation, from doubt to confidence, and highlights the meaningful recognition he receives for his hard work. It wraps up the story with a sense of accomplishment and growth. Let me know if you'd like any adjustments.